Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, Desean Watson goes ahead of a grand jury this Friday, Carson Wentz to Washington, and Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. All this, fantasy implications, NFL futures, and more. Now, the first team we're going to talk about here is the Denver Broncos. Now, we know Russell Wilson will still remain a top 10 QB as far as fantasy and league-wide perspectives. But what's going to happen to his weapons on the outside? How are we going to attack them in this upcoming draft? First of all, we're going to talk about Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton is a huge body at 6'4", 216 pounds. He was a second-round pick, 40th overall out of SMU. He was a 2019 Pro Bowler, and that season he had Joe Flacco throwing him the ball. He hasn't had consistent quarterback play at any point in his career. He's going to finally have that now with Russell Wilson. A couple interesting things with Courtland Sutton. He's due a $10.5 million roster bonus at the end of this month. As long as he's on that roster, then go ahead, move him up your draft boards. If you watched this channel last year and you saw how Matthew Stafford went over to the Rams, we were huge on Robert Woods and huge on Cooper Kupp. We predicted career years for both of those players. I'm predicting the same type of thing here. Now, Robert Woods did go down with that injury, but we all know Cooper Kupp eclipsed all receiving records last year, being the Triple Crown winner in yards, receptions, and touchdowns. Expect the same type of production here, obviously not to that scale or level, as no one could predict something like that, with a Courtland Sutton and a Jerry Jeudy. Now, Jerry Jeudy is the guy that's flying up draft boards here. He was the Fred Biletnikoff winner, which is the highest award for a wide receiver in college. Second year in the league last year, he only played 5 games. So durability is a little bit of a concern with this guy. 6'1", 195 pounds, a little bit of a smaller frame. But a 4'5", 440 coming out of the draft, very fast, explosive. He's going to have the opportunity now, as long as he can stay on the field and stay healthy with Russell Wilson, someone who will actually throw the ball down the field. I'm expecting huge numbers for both of these receivers. I'm going to go ahead and place Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to be aggressive with this in my top 18 for wide receivers this year. Obviously, that's a huge jump up. And the same with Courtland Sutton, top 25. I mean, Courtland Sutton was the guy that was going in between 7th and 8th rounds last year. That's not going to be there anymore. He's going to be off the board, I would imagine, by at least a 5th round, if not sooner, depending how deep your drafts are. Another player from the Denver Broncos you're going to want to think about is Javonte Williams, the running back. Now, there's been a lot of news on the circuits here that maybe a Christian McCaffrey trade, something with Denver going all in, similar to what the Rams did last year. I just don't see it. Melvin Gordon's contract is iffy. Javonte Williams, so they did just draft last year. He's under contract. He did come on heavy at the end of last year, similar to, if you remember, how Jonathan Taylor came on heavy for the Colts last year. Now, obviously, he's not going to be running behind the same offensive line as Taylor did, but he will have better quarterback play that could open up the box and not have stacked fronts. Javonte Williams should be going up draft boards as well. See Javonte Williams as a top 10 running back coming off your boards this year when your drafts start. Next team we're going to jump into is the Green Bay Packers, with Aaron Rodgers signing that $200 million 4-year contract. Obviously, those numbers are not real. Aaron could probably play 2 years, get out of that contract, but that's not why we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about fantasy implications and what we're going to do from a gambling or betting-wise with Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers right now are still at that 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. You know, let's wait till midseason here, see where they got. Maybe we can get a little bit better number. As far as Devontae Adams go, he is still going to be a top 2 wide receiver right along Cooper Kupp for going off your draft boards. Nothing's going to change there. The amount of red zone targets and just targets in general that Devontae Adams gets from Aaron is unmatchable. Expect him to go off high in your boards. Nothing's changing there. As far as the backfield goes, now this will be A.J. Dillon's next year into it, as he is competing with Aaron Jones for snaps and touches out of the backfield. Aaron Jones did sign that big 2-year contract. Now, obviously, one of those years is over. He's going to be playing on the next year. Expect the same really here. No big changes out of Green Bay, with Aaron Jones, going to be getting more of the receiving work, the first down roles, while coming in on third down, pass protection, and A.J. Dillon just grinding that clock out, extending those wins. More touches for A.J. Dillon. Nothing too much here to report. Let's go on to the next team. Next up is the Washington Commanders, pulling the deal to get Carson Wentz out of Indianapolis after 1 year, and he will lead the quarterback room. Now, Taylor Heinicke is still in that quarterback room, as he did sign that 2-year extension. I don't know why Washington did this. I mean, you could have thought maybe a Marcus Mariota, somebody who still isn't just going to play YOLO ball with the football, hero ball, that type of thing with Carson out there. But that's a decision they did make. So how will this implicate our draft boards? Well, there's not too many outside guys in Washington that we're going to want to target besides Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, he's still going to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's still going to get his targets, his receptions. Now, the one thing that could be great for Scary Terry here is Carson just doesn't give a fuck. He will just throw that thing up. It's going to be more downfield opportunities for Terry McLaurin that he did not see with the other quarterbacks. I'm not sure how long Carson is going to be behind center on this team. I'm thinking maybe he gets benched mid-season. But until then, Terry should get more targets down the field, could create more opportunities. Really, the only other player on this team to mention from a fantasy perspective is Antonio Gibson. I don't really foresee much changing with him as well, similar to the Green Bay backfield. Antonio Gibson's still a top 10 running back. Figure to see him come off your draft boards as he did last year. Next up, we have Desean Watson. Now, Desean Watson goes ahead of a grand jury on Friday. That's right, Desean Watson, a.k.a. Mr. 26 Cases. We're not sure what's going to happen here. Criminal charges are said to be brought against him. He will have to serve some sort of suspension from the NFL, whether it be a 6-game, 8-game suspension, something like that. But there will be a market for him. Desean Watson will not be on the Houston Texans next year as he was this year. He counts $30 million against their cap, and they cannot afford it to have him just sit on the sideline or at home like they did this year. A couple landing spots for Desean. Obviously, we're going to think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that's really just a quarterback away. Desean has the wheels to escape that bad offensive line. But another team with very, very aggressive owners, the Carolina Panthers. These are the two landing spots for Desean Watson that I see. Indianapolis would be a great fairy tale, but they're not going to trade him within the division and see him twice a year. Desean Watson, say he gets out of this Friday grand jury hearing without going to jail or having any criminal files charged against him and can move forward with a suspension from the National Football League. Your landing spots are going to be looking at Pittsburgh and Carolina. A few things to wrap up before we end this. We do have Amari Cooper is going to be on the move, not playing for Dallas. Where should he end up here? I'm thinking a couple spots make a lot of sense. Now, first of all, if he would to go to Jacksonville, he would immediately become the number one receiver for Trevor Lawrence on that field. Help Trevor grow. Urban Meyer's out of town. Let's see this kid flourish and become the top prospect he was meant to be. If it's not going to be somewhere in Jacksonville, how about in New England? Once again, immediately becomes a top option for a Mac Jones. Once again, progression with the quarterback, have somebody to throw to, somebody he can trust. If it's going to be to a contender or somebody that could push and make a run here, why not Green Bay? We know Aaron needs more weapons. Besides Devontae Adams, I mean, you can't throw it to him every time. An MVS, Marcus Valdes-Scantling out there, and Allen Lazard, those guys aren't the same caliber pedigree of an Amari Cooper. That would be a great fit. And the last one I'd like to throw out there would be the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, we know Keenan Allen's out there. Mike Williams did sign that big contract. I don't know if he's worthy of that contract. I'd like to see Amari Cooper in that fold here. Justin Herbert, he's going to have a lot to go against this season. I mean, not only is Russell Wilson now in the division, he still has Patrick Mahomes, and the Raiders are still in the division, which Derek Carr should resign. Should be the most competitive division of football, the AFC West. Let's get Justin Herbert another weapon to go with. Now, other than that, Chris Godwin did get franchise tagged. No more Tom Brady. It will be Kyle Trask, currently the quarterback number 1 on the depth chart. He was their second-round pick, number 64th overall. I'm not sure how much Kyle learned behind playing for Brady for a whole year, but if he is thrust into that role, that's going to be the guy throwing Chris Godwin primarily his targets, being franchised and remaining with this team. Something to think about. We should have more depth chart divulging by the time drafts roll around to know if Kyle Trask will be the starter or not, but something to think about there. Now, before we wrap it up, NFL futures to go over. Some of the really big moves here is the Denver Broncos now at 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. A cool $25 brings back $300 with Russell Wilson. Those weapons outside we talked about, an elite defense out there. It seems like a nice little spot if you wanted to throw something on it, have a little bit of action before the season started. Obviously, you're still going to get that 12-1 or other numbers, maybe a quarter through the season, somewhere like that. They are in a tough division. They will have to play the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Raiders twice a year, but that's a nice little nugget. I thought was not too bad with the addition of a Russell Wilson. And if you watched last year, we did cash that Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl ticket with the addition of Matthew Stafford. Now, if you're new here, this is Burgundy Bets. I'm Ron Burgundy. Do me a favor, hit that like and sub button. We're going to be bringing you this content as the season gets closer with projections and rankings. Right now, the biggest notes and takeaways from this video will be the emergence of Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton moving up your draft boards and seeing what I'm predicting is career years for both of these players, similar to as it was with the Rams players. These guys, both high pedigree, both top draft picks, haven't had a quarterback to really help them. Russell Wilson will immediately do that. Expect big production and big rises from these two players in particular. That's it, guys. On to the next one.